All right, good morning, everyone. Call the Infrastructure Committee to order. Notice the meeting was posted on August the 25th. All three districts are present. First item is to approve the minutes of August 14th.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 2 is our TIF 2 and TIF 2A budgets. Stacy, anything new here?
No changes.
Okay, questions? Otherwise, no action. All right. Item 3 is our capital improvements list. Stace?
Yeah, I made some changes to that format. I'm not finished yet, but I like your feedback on what I've done so far, and if there's any more you want me to do.
I'm trying to make it.
No, it's this one, the non-ARPA.
Yeah, Stacy, I like.
This
You have our ongoing projects, things that are anticipated both in the PBA, the annex, courthouse, et cetera.
it broke them out by the different locations.
And funding sources and other additional information. Okay, I like it a lot. Thank you. Any questions for Stacy? Otherwise, just receive his update on the new format of the report.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4 is our ARPA projects list. Stacy, anything new here? Just is there formatting change as well?
No, it's the same
Same report.
report. As always, the owner's reps may be a little bit ahead of mine as far as dates and so forth. The one thing of note here is the asbestos bid for the 5th floor is going to hit the street this week. So
Fantastic.
get a bid back in. That'll answer a lot of questions. It's seemingly out there. I'll let the owner's rep report on the rest of the projects.
Okay. And the importance of that is that everything that we're looking to do, whether it be moving the DA over to ICB and utilizing funds there from ARPA, or the remodel of the 5th floor for social distancing for the clerk, is tied to how much we might end up having to pay or not pay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Is there a motion to receive his update?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 5 is an update on our courthouse elevator projects. Cruising right along. Okay. No action on item 5. 6 is discussion on the possible build out of JJC for additional courtroom space. I think we covered this in depth. Nothing new right now. Okay. No action. 7, it's a request to utilize a portion of the old annex snack bar for the DA's office.
The sheriff has asked, no, I'm sorry. The sheriff has asked to use a portion of the snack bar, and likewise, the district attorney, anticipating a temporary move to another location, would like to take what's left of the snack bar, that area where the service counter is located, to use as a pay kiosk. I think this can be done without disturbing any of the front entrance project. It looks like the hallways will be open, but this is an area that a small counter and pay glass windows could be installed relatively inexpensively.
All right. Any questions for Keith? Probably premature to make any decisions given
I think
how everything is tied to.
Yes, the 5th floor. So I'm not certain where we are in that sequence of events.
All right. All in favor? 8 is our update from our owner's rep on our ARPA projects. Good morning.
First, we'll start with the elevators. Currently, all the proposals and review and scope are in. That is in purchasing for review. Juvenile Justice Lobby, the project has bid. White's recommendation for award is to the county, and again, that is with purchasing currently. Social distancing, the architect has provided their scope proposal and is under review with Stacy's office, and we're looking at that right now. The sheriff's office, obviously we have a contract. They're under notice to proceed, and they're working on the design drawings and equipment schedules. Currently, we're still looking at equipment at the first of the year with completion in April and May for the new equipment. Clerks, no change. Third floor purchasing, going about as we planned. We hope to be done at the end, mid to late September, and then have the purchasing move. Annex security, the plans are 100%. We did a page turn or total review of the project as a design. Those comments were made last week, and those comments should be complete and updated by next week. Drainage culvert inventory, we're on track still for the milestone schedule. They're proceeding, and again, they will provide any data the county needs on an interim basis if there's a project they've gone through or culvert they've already surveyed and scanned for flow elevations. Juvenile justice roof is all the materials are on site, stairs are in. I would probably expect this actual tear off and demo and beginning of the roof probably in the next week to 10 days. Camera security is complete, pending final documents and final inspections. Those are not complete or have been turned in. So we need the as-built and do a actual review for the annex. Again, the elevators. Only other change is on the existing jail HVAC. The team met after our last meeting, and the review of the design and requirements and scope are being addressed currently. We do not have a time schedule on the revised plans for review, probably in the next 30 days or so. Roof replacement, the contractor for the state has reviewed the roof and is preparing a proposal based on the state contracts. That proposal is due this week, and we should have it in. The loading dock and the metal roof repair will probably be combined with the other design requirements. Those have changed slightly.
On the camera system, the fifth floor moves forward. We need to have a plan to salvage all the work that's gone on and be able to put it back. So
correct. And we have made a request of the contractor for proposals, not only for the fifth floor, the fourth floor, the third floor, and also the first floor for the moving of cameras and additional cameras to maintain the security at the front. So we're waiting for those proposals back from, I believe it's DG, for those costs.
Please.
I misunderstood. I couldn't hear you when you were talking about this. You said something about schedule on sheriff's office equipment.
Yes, on the Midwest City Sheriff's, the proposal or the final design, the contractor is doing the design work. It's a design build. Those design documents aren't in, but we anticipate, and their schedule shows January 1st for equipment delivery. and then it'll take 2 or 3 months to get it all installed and changed out.
Okay. And then I appreciate you noting throughout, just like it keeps coming up, just that we're on schedule. Your
Right.
analysis is that for all these projects at this time, we remain on target.
Right, and of course, our only exception that we're concerned about is behavioral health services. Um, We have our concerns there. Just, we don't know, we don't have any information to say one way or the other than we know the size of the project, the normal duration, how we have to be encumbered by 12/24, and we need to be going on that.
And so I assume with each of these that on your calendar to determine they're on target, that you've built in a buffer, and I assume the buffer timeframe varies depending on
Correct.
the scale of the project. Give me a feel for, I know we talked about this before, but give me a feel for what kind of buffer you built.
Well, we're hoping that by the end of the year, we have not only the CMAR risk for, but are you talking specifically for behavioral?
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I
Broad.
feel like you want to get into those details. I just meant broader as we look at all of these.
I think there are really only two projects that I would have any concern with, and that would be behavioral. And then the second one might be the elevators, but we have all the pieces in place. We know which elevators, we have the contractor, or we don't have the contractor, we have the design engineer. And once we get moving on that, we'll know where we are as it relates. But I think we feel very comfortable with the elevators, pending the final delivery dates once we get the equipment ordered.
Good. Those are my questions.
Anything else? Is there a motion to receive?
Move to see, receive report.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Number 9 is the citizens oversight update.
They haven't met since your last meeting, but they meet this Wednesday, 1 o'clock in this room.
All right. No action. Citizens participation. Anybody? Board comments?
None.
Any board comments? Dawn, do you have anything? No. Okay. Is there any new business? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
Agreements. You're right. It got cold in here. Okay. Thanks for bearing with us. 10:15, call the PBA advisory to order. Notice the meeting was properly posted on August 25th. All the districts are represented. Item 1 is to approve the minutes of August 14.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Oh, I'm not up. I think.
Technical difficulties on my part. I forgot to switch over. Sorry. Sleep at the wheel.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cassie. You. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Cassie. Sorry about that. Okay, we ready for, did we vote? Okay. So I think we need to, do we need to redo the motion in a second on item 1 for you? Okay. So if you'll, whoever moved and seconded, okay,
I need to go through that again. Okay.
yeah. All in favor? Aye. Okay. 2 is discussion and possible action regarding ARPA capital projects. Keith,
We've got Kraus, the ICB interior, Metro 1 and 2 cameras and elevators. I think Bill White spoke to the progress being made on Kraus. The interior of the ICB, we've got Small and Associates working on design there. Metro cameras are being installed under close supervision now. Thank you. And I believe the elevators are on track with, I was a little surprised to hear that that was one that might be worried about a little. But I think on all these projects, our owner's rep is probably in the best position to give us timelines, updates, and so on.
okay. Are there any questions of Keith?
I'll move to receive his report.
All in favor? Aye. 3, Keith, is the ICB exterior project.
Yes, we've selected, as you know, Miller is the architect for that work. This is a TIF project and not an ARPA project. We've yet to meet with them to discuss scope and fees and where we might like to go with this.
Once that contract is in place, what are we anticipating the design time will be?
I don't know. What have we been experiencing?
They'll want
3 months?
9 months to a year.
Oh,
For the design?
that long?
It's negotiable, but that's what they'll start.
And then
I'm not
just,
going to live that long.
we're periodically, or someone is periodically inspecting the outside of that building, make sure all those panels are
Yes, I've
proper,
had
safe.
Yes, I've had Midwest Wrecking on 2 occasions now basically rattle the exterior of the building from the ground to the parapet to make certain we don't have anything loose and likely to fall.
Thanks for doing that, Keith. Appreciate it. Okay, any other questions?
I'll move to receive the report.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 4 is to get an update from our architect on the Kraus redesign. Anything? Okay, no action. 5 is discussion possible action related to the issuance of revenue bonds by the PBA. Jared, I think you're up. Thanks for joining us.
Been a
couple months.
Thank you, Jay. Can we get a motion to receive this document, please?
So moved.
All in favor?
So what you have in front of you is just a summary, kind of shows what's outstanding. So we converted PBA debt back in the early 2000s. OIA served as our conduit issuer to basically facilitate receiving a higher credit rating. At the time, PBA had not been in the market in several years, and so we used OIA kind of virtue of name recognition in the municipal market to kind of take advantage of that. So the first half really just shows you kind of where we're at today. This is what we've got out there. So in April of 2020, we refinanced the bonds that were outstanding that primarily served as the improvements for Metro 1 and 2, some ancillary improvements within the courthouse and ICB. Those were issued in the amount of $9.2 million at an interest rate of 1.96%. That was a taxable rate at that time. And its final maturity is June 1, 2033. As of today, there's $7.12 million left outstanding. It's subject to what's called the yield maintenance call. Basically, there's a calculation that gets done, a break-even analysis with JP Morgan. A 1.96 interest rate, I don't think we would recommend you refinancing that because you're definitely not going to get a lower rate than that today. There's no reserve requirement. Under the original structure, we did have what was called a rate stabilization fund that's kind of been maintained out of PBA revenues. It's subject to a match just to help offset any cash flow discrepancies. The next semi-annual payment is due in December, on December 1, and it's just a little bit shy of $400,000 of that amount. So the total debt service, annual debt service for this last year was $792,688. That brings you to a total debt coverage of approximately 1.86 times. So that's the baseline that we started with, just kind of going through. So the documents require a minimum covenant ratio, and they require us to maintain at least a 1.25 times coverage. So the options that you see here today just maximize that 1.2 times 5 coverage. So we took a calculation, tried to come up with as much money as we could generate and still meet that 1.2 times 5 coverage. So that's all I tell you on that. So we looked at a couple of different scenarios. We looked at 15-year banknote. We looked at a 30-year underwritten bond issue. And this is kind of the results of all of that. So we assumed a closing date of December 1 of this year. A 30-year bond issued would generate approximately $26 million at today's interest rates. We're estimating an all-in interest rate of 5.25%. The actual interest rate, if you looked at it last week, was about 4.75. Wanted to give us some run in the market to get up there. Of course, those rates wouldn't be set until we actually executed a bond purchase agreement with an underwriter, and then they would be fixed at that time. You can kind of see what some rate impacts would be. So at 5%, we could actually go up and generate additional project funds to about $27.6 million. If rates went up to 5.5%, then that issuance number obviously comes down just slightly because the interest cost is going to be a little bit higher. On the 30-year issue, you're looking at annual debt service of about $1.8 million. And again, that maximum combined annual debt service is about $2.1 million. And that's secured out of Metro 1 and 2, any revenues received from ICB or Cross. That's the security for these bonds. The second option, just a shorter term option, all the same original closing parameters. If we went with just a 15-year term, we could generate almost $17 million, 16.9. Estimated that interest rate again at 5%. And then you can kind of see what the rate impact would be, if rates were slightly lower or slightly higher, and the net project proceeds that we could generate. One other option that we looked at that I told you we would look at when we went back was what if we just secured things with just Metro 1 and 2, the parking revenues only. So that last couple of bullet points down there shows you what we would be looking at. On a 30-year parking revenues only, we could borrow about 18.5 million. And if we went with the 15-year parking revenues only, it would generate about 12.5 million.
Are there questions of Jared?
Hi, thank you for putting this together for us.
You're so welcome.
My first question is, so you assumed, just for purpose of discussion, the December 1, 2023 close date.
Yes,
Uh,
that was just.
What does it, is that doable? I don't know what timing requirements are to spin this up and have it.
Sure. So it really depends on which route we go, right? An underwritten transaction is going to take slightly longer to execute than if we went out and just did a regular bank placement like we did back in 2020. Start to finish on a bank placement, putting a bid packet and all those things together is about a month. Truthfully, an underwritten transaction is about 60 days. The key dates in there would be, obtaining approval at OIA in the county, and then putting together an official statement, to get ready to go out, actually into the market. Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned
Mhm.
properties. Did you include the election board property and ACON?
Yes, they're all in there
I
too.
did agree.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. He brought up a good point. The election board, Lincoln property, is also included in our pledge in the OIA indenture. It's not.
So your maximum number covers all possible.
That's right. So we basically, what we did is we took the audited numbers for PBA, basically looked at all of the revenues, backed out all the expenses, and came up with a net revenue number that includes kind of all of those line items to come up with these numbers.
And Jared, just confirming that because the PBA is a beneficiary trust of the county, should at some point it be the desire of the PBA to transfer some of these funds to the county for projects of the county, that is permissible.
That is permissible. If you're thinking you've got some projects in mind, we would obviously want to start working with you guys and Stacy pretty quick, just from a tax diligence standpoint. That way we can make sure we've got everything buttoned up. Generally, so long as it's for a governmental purpose of the county, then we can accomplish this financing.
Okay.
And again, we would anticipate using OIA kind of as our continuing conduit issuer, have a new lease purchase agreement that's entered into between PBA and OIA, just like we did on the prior transaction. That way we keep everything uniform and it's easy to track.
Are there other questions?
I'll move to receive the report.
Just before. So depending on the avenue chosen, 60 to 90 days.
Yeah.
And then projects would need to be identified in the bond documents. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, we would need, ideally, we would have a project identified and some dollar amount associated with those.
Okay. And then in the event, let's say we identified a project and there was some unforeseen circumstance that prevented that project from moving forward, would there be an ability to amend those documents to substitute a different project?
Yeah, I think what we would want to do is we would describe them more broadly, general governmental capital improvements, including, but not specifically limited to XYZ that we want to identify. Sometimes you have more funds, left over, and you can roll those into an additional project or whatever. We would want to give you the most flexibility. The caveat to that is if we want to issue these tax exempt, which we would want to, that we have the 3-year spending limitation. So basically, the date that we close any financing, whether it's a note or bonds, we have to have a reasonable expectation that we can spend 85% of the proceeds of those bonds within 3 years.
For them to be tax-free, is that correct?
That is correct, yes. And that's one of the things we would work with Stacy and staff, to come up with that project list and expenditure schedule to make sure that we're meeting, all of those as well.
By way of the suggestion, would assume that probably all 3 offices at this point have an idea of if we were to move in this direction, what those projects might be. Perhaps we, at our next meeting, and Jared, I don't know that you necessarily need to be present for that, we could begin a discussion of what these funds might be utilized for. So I know I'd like to visit with Stacy. I have some ideas. Our office has some ideas. Soon others would. And we could put together a list and begin to work from that list before we would make a recommendation to the PBA to move forward.
Sure, I think that's a great idea. Thank
Okay,
you.
Charles, you good with that? Okay, so there was a motion and a second to receive the update. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Jared, thank you for this work.
You bet, guys. If you need anything or have any questions that come up in the meantime, feel free to reach out and we'll be happy to
Will do.
help in
Thank you
any way
very
we can.
much.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is the ARPA update from White and Associates.
Good morning again. Emergency Ops, Lingo has been selected as the contractor at risk. The schematic design was actually due last Friday, but we're waiting for a estimate on the project with the design documents we have. And so that'll be 2 or 3 weeks. His schedule currently is to review the estimate on the 13th with a confirmation on the 20th.
Yeah, I was planning on bringing that presentation to the BOCC on the 20th. Final schematics with a price.
The elevators as stated before, we have the design team in place. The cameras, as Keith stated, are started in the metro, and the ICB remodel with small proposal is in and under review.
Are there any questions? Anything else? Is there a motion to receive?
Yeah, I was gonna say, just from last week, I assumed, Keith, did you reach out, or whoever is reaching out to the zoo regarding the well?
Yes, the designer of the well has actually had a conversation with our owner's rep, and they're trying to redesign that to be in concert with our project. We haven't heard back what their final analysis is.
Thank you. I'll move to receive report.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any citizens' participation? Are there board comments? Seeing none. Is there any new business? Seeing none. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.